I started in 1976, the end of 75, so how many years? I can't add, so what's that? 37 years? The book, to me, if you're looking for me to badmouth anybody, it's not that. It's just a feel-good book about a time when everybody hung out, and for comedians, it's a history. It's a piece of history. And it's a piece of history done, I think, for the first time from an insider's perspective of what it was like to be a stand-up that time period. So for a comic, it's very instructive, and it gives you a history from a comic's viewpoint. And second, for other people, it's just fun and entertaining. Plus, you're seeing all these guys that are big stars now who were back, just starting out, and you get the whole story and the struggle and the fun. Well, I came up with Richard Lewis, Larry David, Elaine Boosler, Bill Maher, Paul Reiser, Seinfeld, Larry Miller, Dennis Wolfberg, Rita Rudner, Cara Leifer, George Wallace, John Mendoza. I mean, the list could go on forever. It was like going into a clubhouse with 30 or 40 other guys just like you. It's like being a kid or a child without adult supervision. The very first night that after I passed auditions, I was a Catch a Rising Star. And I remember at the end of the night, Elaine Boosler was there, and we were talking, and she introduced me to Larry and to a couple of the comics there, David Say, a few other comics. And come into the bar walks Richard Lewis. And Lewis said, oh, and she introduced me. She goes, I heard about you, Richard. And Richard goes, you're supposed to be a really good writer. And I didn't know what to say. I said, okay, whatever, because I didn't know I was a writer. And he said, come on, I'll take you over to the Improv. And we drove over to the Improv, and he walked into Chris Albrecht, who was the manager of the Improv and later became the head of HBO, and my manager. And he said to Chris, you got to put this guy up every night. And Rich had never seen my act. He had just heard it from the other guys, from the other comics. And it was a grapevine that if you heard somebody you liked, everybody knew about it. And, they supported you. It was, I don't think there's a period like that will ever be again. My blog is 920spot.com, and that was named after my favorite spot at the Improv was the 920 spot, because it was the first show on Saturday night at the Improv, and then I could run across town to Catch and do a bunch of sets. And the book is full of really funny stories. And not only gives you stories about comics, it talks about being a stand-up, what it's like going on stage for the first time, what it's like to bomb, what it's like to deal with hecklers, what it's like to work your way up. And it's not just only from my perspective, it's from other comics' perspective, and it's filled with quotes from guys like Seinfeld and Larry and Richard Lewis and a bunch of other comics. And it's a fun read.